Welcome to On Fire, the only official Survivor podcast. I'm Jeff Probst, the host and showrunner of Survivor. Each week, I'm joined by Jay Wolf, Survivor fan and the executive producer of this podcast. Hello, Jay.
Hello, Jeff.
We're also joined by former Survivor player, three-time, I always say it because it's true, Survivor great, Jeremy Collins. What up, Jeremy?
What up, fellas, man? Good episode, huh? I can't wait to talk about this thing.
For real.
So that's what we do. Each week, we dissect and talk about the biggest moments of the most recent episode of Survivor, and we bring you insights from three different points of view, the fan, the player, and the producer. Can I, Jay, before we get into this episode, I got to share, I don't know if you've heard, but we have a really cool Survivor book coming out. It's timed to the premiere of Survivor 50, and I just saw the finished preview, and it's fantastic.
Oh, wow.
Honestly, it's everything we ever hoped it would be when we started.
What is it about? Like, what's the deal with it?
So, okay, it's an experience book. It's 250 pages. You got 1,000 never-before-seen photos. And what it is it's a book that feels like the experience you had playing, Jeremy. So it's presented in stages that mirror the player's emotional and physical journey. So you start with the arrival, and you see them coming up on the beach. And we have photos from all different seasons and moments of the players getting into the sand. And then it goes into the jungle, their new home. And then now they must take on these epic battles and challenges. Then you got to deal with the unexpected twists and advantages. And then you got to survive the crucible of tribal council.
That's crazy.
And I'm telling you, as you pour through the pages, the photos are intimate, they're epic, they're emotional. Plus, I have some personal journal entries. There were seasons where I kept journals.
Okay.
And it was
Wow.
really interesting to go back and read some of my notes, especially like from the first few days when I arrived in Pulautiga before we started shooting. And then I also share some personal reflections of specific moments that have happened over the years, where it's kind of like I look at a photo and just started writing. Here's what I remember about that moment, and here's what I think about that moment now. And so the result is this really visceral, evocative, emotional trip through what it's like to live this adventure. This is over a year in the making, mostly put together by two people, Scott Duncan, who is one of our main DPs. You hear me talk about Scott all the time on this podcast. He's responsible for so much of the look of our show through the lens of our cameras. And the vast majority of photos in this book are Scott's, but they're not all Scott's, because the idea behind the book is that everybody who has ever picked up a lens on Survivor has contributed to the look of Survivor. And you will see that not only through the Duncan photos, but photos from other cinematographers as well. The layout of the book is a whole nother thing. Mackenzie Oravec, who we use a lot on Survivor, and I use her for personal projects all the time, but she has been outstanding in the layout of this book, because it's not just putting pictures and words. It's the layout of the photos together and what they make you feel. I'm as proud of this book as I am of the card game, The Tribe Has Spoken. It fits, it works.
Wow.
And I just want to be clear, this is not a book of lists. This is not statistics or top 10 challenges or top 20 moments. It's none of that. This is an emotional dive into Survivor. Let's put a link in here, Jay, and it'll tell you about pre-orders, and you can get it anywhere books are sold. But we're really excited. We're working with Simon & Schuster, and they are a blast. But I've never done this. I've never developed a book like this from scratch. I wrote these kids' adventure books called Stranded years ago, but this is a completely different take on putting a book together, and it has been so fun.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
Okay, thanks for letting me brag about our team. All right, Jay, let's get into it. The big moments, episode 3. There were a few. Where do you want to start?
I want to go straight to what I think everyone will be talking about tonight, and that's Jake. So we were on this beautiful moment at the beach with Jake. He's like got his legs in the sand. You see the sunrise. We had just talked about Kele's depleted. They're down to 4. They have no fire. They have no food. They have no hope. I'm like, look at this. This is rebirth. This is this beautiful moment on Survivor that we're all experiencing. I was going to ask Jeremy about it, about what it's like to sit in the sand and just think about what's going to happen today. And then something completely unexpected happened.
Hey guys, come check this out. The snake just came and latched on me. I don't know if it got me or not. It bite? I was just sitting here, minding my own business, and it came up and just like latched on me.
It was on you?
Yeah, it was on me.
Did it bite you?
I don't know. It was on the bottom of my foot. Like it felt like something, but
That's so crazy.
was it poisonous ones? Yeah, like right here, look, you can see 2 little marks.
That's so scary.
I gotta figure out if like this is bad or not.
Jake says that he got bitten by a snake. You come on Survivor, it's this crazy atmosphere, but you never picture that you're gonna get bit by a snake. For everyone at home who thinks that we're just living in some resort, that's not true at all. We are in the forest, we are in the jungle. Like, this is real out here.
Yeah, it's real.
Yeah. Jeff, can you talk us through this? I mean, we saw what happened from some points of view, but what was everyone behind the scenes doing?
Yeah, let me give you a kind of a full layout. I talked to Kahaya and Jesse and Matt. We all combined notes. So what happens is Jake thinks, but isn't sure that he was bitten by a snake. Ryan Hopkins, one of our producers, takes a look at it. That's unusual. He's concerned enough to call base camp. Fortunately, we had a boat at that tribe camp right then who was delivering some camera gear. So the decision was made, let's put Jake on the boat, as that's going to be faster than having our medical team get on a boat and come to him. So Jake is loaded on the boat. They start traveling. It's about 30 minutes or so to get to base camp. Interesting side note, en route to base camp, there was a very stressful moment because the medical team and the boat and camera team traveling with Jake on the boat all lost communication for a moment.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
I mean, this never happens. And so it's right at the moment where they were giving them an update on Jake. And so during that time of no communication, it was unclear to everybody back at base camp if Jake was conscious and breathing properly.
Wow.
It was a terrifying moment. That's why when you see our teams arrive back at the dock, you hear Jimmy Quigley screaming, "Is he breathing?"
Yeah.
That wasn't Jimmy overreacting. We didn't know. So that was
Wow.
the first question. And then you saw the doctor, Barry, say, yes, he's breathing. So we had a little bit of relief there. And at that point, it was full on. And we showed you what happened. Jake was transported into our medical clinic, which is at base camp. We've never shown this before. As I mentioned, Dr. Barry had taken over at that point with all of his team. And it sounds funny to say this, but now that we know Jake's okay, it's like watching an episode of The Pit, that new medical show, because it looked like chaos to me. But as I talked to the team later, they said, no, there was nothing chaotic about it. We knew what we were doing. It was a scary situation, but you have doctors, nurses, paramedics, everybody super calm, talking in lingo and jargon that I have no idea what they're talking about.
Right.
The other thing you got to mention about this, we said it in the episode because it's true. Sea crate snake bites are extremely rare. We've been in Fiji for 10 years. We have not heard of a single incident in the entire country. We couldn't find anybody to even talk to. So our medical team, while Jake was in there being tended to, they're calling specialists all over the world, trying to get some insight because this is so unlikely to happen. And then what happened next was once we got Jake stabilized and we knew that he was okay, we made the decision to take him by boat to Lautoka Hospital, which is very close to us, for more testing. Then we get to the hospital. They had never seen a sea crate bite, so they said, we can't really help either. So it was there that we arranged an air ambulance to transfer Jake to a facility in Australia where he was fully cleared. And for clarity, I didn't know this. There is no actual blood test that can be done to tell if envenomation occurred. That is, if you had venom in the bite. But as Dr. Barry explained to me, you're pretty sure within 20 minutes because things would get very intense, but you can actually only be certain after observation for several hours. And on top of all of this, you've got Jake, who's this very big, muscular guy who is already depleted, very dehydrated. So he was in a world of hurt. And from there, when he was finished being observed and everybody knew he was completely good, we sent him home.
That's nuts. All right, so now I want you to change lenses for a second, Jeff, and talk to me about how you tell this Jake story from the storytelling perspective. Because not only did it happen, then you have to tell it to us on TV.
Okay, yeah. So obviously in a situation like this, the only thing anybody's concerned about is Jake and his safety. And that's all that was happening, as I explained earlier. But once you get home and you decide, how are we going to tell this story, then it becomes a different set of problems. And the how and the why of that is really no different than any other scene. You start with a point of view. How are we going to tell this story? And one of the keys to any good story is you only reveal the information you need to reveal in that moment and nothing more, because you don't want to drain the suspense. Great stories thrive on tension and curiosity. So because we knew Jake was okay, we knew we could really look at how to tell this story in the most dramatic way. So the first thing you see is Jake thinks he gets a snake bite. Maybe. Then we let you see our producer, Ryan Hopkins. This is a little behind the scenes, just a taste. This is unusual. We don't usually see a producer interacting with a player. Oh, that's kind of cool. Then Ryan makes his call to base camp. Then the decision's made, let's transport Jake to our medical facility. Okay, that's a little more intrigue, more information. We're concerned enough that we're going to do something we rarely do. So we're giving you just enough information at each step of the way to keep you interested without draining the story. But we still don't know, is it a snake bite? If so, is it a dangerous snake bite? So then we reveal the next piece of information. Alex, he looks at the survival guide and he discovers it is a sea crate, and that's a very poisonous snake. And now Alex gets emotional as he realizes this really could be a life or death situation. And we end the act. Mm-hmm. That's a great cliffhanger. Mm-hmm. Huge stakes, huge uncertainty, huge mystery. What will happen next? When we begin the next act, we decide, okay, this is when we're going to break the fourth wall completely and let you see the chaos that was unfolding behind the camera, which means you're going to see the cameras, the camera operators, the audio engineers, the producers, the support staff, all of it. And we did it in a very dramatic way by blasting you into the scene at the dock with Quigley saying, is he breathing?
Yeah.
And from that point on, there is no wall anymore between production and the audience. You are inside the action just like I was. And that intensity that you saw in that scene, that's as close as we can get to having you there in person.
I thought that was so cool. Like, this is the change of the scenery. I thought it was awesome. The whole thing was beautiful.
Well, I love hearing that, Jeremy, because we spent a lot of time discussing how to lay this out. At what point do you reveal what? Because we wanted this impact that you just talked about. And I got to say, from a production standpoint, you have camera operators, audio engineers. They have to get the sound, they have to get the pictures, but they have to stay out of the way of the medical team because while we're shooting it, it's a life and death situation. It's only now that we knew he was okay. And I can tell you, next to Caleb in Cambodia, this is the most terrifying situation we've ever dealt with on Survivor.
Well, and I know we already mentioned it, Jeff, but ultimately it did end with this very difficult decision to send Jake home.
Given what he's just been through physically and emotionally, would you feel comfortable sending him back into the environment? You know where I'm going, Jake.
Yes,
you're not going to have food. You're not going to have water. You don't have fire. Would you feel comfortable sending him back into the environment that Survivor offers?
No. There are too many uncontrolled variables there, Jake, and we need to protect you, and you want to be a father for your unborn child, and we need to protect that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, those are hard moments.
Yeah, no, it's an impossible moment. And I want to talk about this decision to pull Jake from the game. Who is involved in the decision, and ultimately, how does it get made?
Well, anytime you're pulling a player for a medical reason, that decision is only made by the medical team. And in this case, that was Dr. Barry, who was the doctor in charge. Little side note, Dr. Barry had only been with us for 1 week.
Wow.
Jeez.
He was filling in for Dr. Joe, who's normally there. And so anytime we have a new doctor, we sit down and say, look, it's super unlikely, but sometimes something happens and we have to deal with a player, and here's how we deal with it. And here's what you have to keep in mind from a camera standpoint. And let me ask you questions. All of these things they have to think about. And then I'll say, on the very rare occasions we might have to pull somebody from the game, that's very unlikely to happen. And then what happens? One of the most dramatic situations ever. I couldn't be more impressed because you can't train for it, Jay. You can't say to Barry, let's go do a few practice sessions.
Yeah.
Right.
You just have to hope that the person in charge has enough restraint to be inside a terrifying moment, but still deliver the story in a way that a layperson like me can understand, can let you know what's at stake. This could be very dangerous. He could also be completely fine. That's why we're evaluating him. You have to do all of that, and you have to understand that we're telling a story. It's a TV show. You just can't blurt out, Jake, you're never going to be back in the game. Just want to let you know.
Yeah.
You can't do that. So it was remarkable because it was happening in real time. And then the other thing that the doctor is tasked with is they're the one making the decision to end this adventure.
Yeah, that's
and we
tough.
don't want to do it. Jeremy knows we love our players. We spend so much time trying to find them. We just want it to be amazing. But in this case, there were several reasons Jake couldn't come back into the game. One, we needed further observational time with him at a real hospital in Australia. Two, he'd gone through so much emotional upheaval that he was drained. So even if Dr. Barry thought he was fine, you just couldn't put him back in 110-degree heat in the middle of the jungle.
I can imagine that. That's tough.
Yeah. And then the third reason would be fairness, because if you really want to get into the nitty-gritty, he had a lot of IVs and fluids and all sorts of things being injected into him. And you could say, well, that's too much of an advantage. So we made the right decision.
As a gamer, yes, I agree with that 100%. If you send somebody out and they get all the IVs and fluids and then they come back in the game, that's a huge advantage.
Yeah. So for all those reasons, we made the only decision. And I got to say, Jake was completely aligned with us. He was very grateful for the treatment. It was very emotional for Jake.
Yeah.
I mean, I felt like it was an honor to witness an expectant father and a husband say to the medical team, thank you for looking out for me. And thank you for making sure I get home.
That's cool.
Yeah. I mean, that's the last thing I want to mention is we got to see this kind of end card of that act before we go to break. And it says Jake made it home for the birth of his son and he's doing well. So I'm just curious, Jeff, if you have any updates from Jake recently.
Well, I just saw Jake as we now do these Zoom calls with the entire cast before the premiere. We didn't do it with you, Jeremy, but we do it now. And so I'm on with everybody from Survivor 49, and he was in great spirits. They all were. It's really fun to see them days before the premiere.
Yeah.
He does remember a lot of it. He does remember that it was terrifying. I even spent a few minutes saying, let me prep you for what you're going to see so you can prep your wife. I didn't tell him the details, but I did say, prep her that it's going to be scary.
Yes.
At times. And she knows you're okay because it's hard for the loved one. They only hear it, but she's going to get to see it.
Yeah.
And the best news is, Jay, you can say everything happens for a reason. You can justify it however you want. The bad result was he had to be pulled from the game. The silver lining was that he gets to go home, and turns out you will see the birth of your baby. And that's really beautiful.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's amazing.
All right, let's take a break. That was a lot. When we come back, let's check in on the Kele tribe. They're down to 3 members and another devastating loss. We'll be right back. Welcome back to On Fire, the only official Survivor podcast. All right, Jay, what's the next moment?
I want to talk about the other tribe's first look at the new and unexpected Kele tribe.
I don't know. I mean, I feel it's like there's just so much. I don't know how you can compartmentalize this. It's just such a big loss, And I really feel for Kele too, because it's like I hate it when it's like the odds are stacked against you, and I really want a ray of hope. And it's just like, I don't know. I don't know how to help them.
So that's Jason, who, on top of being incredible at puzzles, seems like a really compassionate guy. So, Jeremy, my first question is, how do you feel when you see a tribe down yet another player?
As a gamer, it's blood in the water. Like, we can't worry about
blood
that.
in the water.
Get rid of them. I want them all gone anyways. You know what I mean? It's one step closer to the million, one step closer that I don't have to see Jeff at Tribal.
Yeah.
So there's really no compassion for me in that situation.
Wow. Well, it seems to me like Jason's employing this compassion. And the question I have is that also strategic?
So what do you think, Jeff? Because I don't feel the compassion really,
Right.
but I want to know what you feel first.
Well, what I love about your answer is the honesty. I mean, blood in the water, you're right. You're trying to get to the end, and the only thing standing in the way are these other people.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it's a great example of why Survivor is difficult to play and probably ultimately difficult for an audience member to understand who hasn't been in this situation. Because where Jeremy says, I don't have any compassion, that is absolutely part of the game. There are no rules about having compassion. In fact, you can make a pretty strong argument that when somebody's down, put your foot on their chest.
Yes.
Make sure they never get up.
Yes.
Where I am in my life right now, from my own life experiences, my age, my family, my love for my kids and dogs, I don't know if I could do that.
Oh.
And I know that there'd be a part of me going, Probst, if they come back and kill you, you will regret this. But I think that line in the sand is what makes Survivor so interesting, because it isn't a right or wrong. It's really compelling. It's very difficult. And if Jeremy is in my alliance and we're tight and he says, Probst, no effing way. No way. We are putting the penalty on them and we're going to destroy them and then we're going to celebrate when it's over. I'm probably going to go with Jeremy because I'm trying to win as well.
Yeah. So when you say in your life right now with the compassion with your family and your kids, so what I say is I'm playing for my family and my kids.
Wow.
So I want to destroy them to bring that money home to them.
Well
You know what I
said,
mean?
dude. There you go, Jeremy. There you go. For the same reasons, we both would make different decisions.
Yeah.
That's why it's impossible, even though it's fun to backseat drive on Survivor on Thursday morning, it is impossible to know what you would do until you are out there facing that situation.
That is true. Yeah, that is true.
Okay, the other thing that's happening here is the challenge has to run, and Kele has one less person than everyone expected. So, Jeff, obviously, when the challenge team set up this challenge, they're expecting 4 players are going to run this from each tribe.
Yep.
Now it's only 3. How do you shift to prepare for that?
Well, I'm glad you asked that because I think fans might be surprised to know how granular we get with everything. We can anticipate things like this might happen. So when we're building this challenge, there's always a point where Kurhofer or Millhouse or whoever's talking will say, okay, so this could run 5 on 5 on 5. It could run 6 on 5 on 4. It could run 6 on 6 on 3 if we get into that situation.
Jeez.
And then the next thing is, if we get to that situation, here's how we will alter it. We'll only have 1 person on this leg. We'll have 2 people on the puzzle, whatever the particulars are. But we get down to the minutia, including tiebreakers, even though it is so rare that a challenge ends in a tie, but it has happened. And when it does, we have a tiebreaker ready to go. Millhouse is always the one to say, he goes, by the way, the tiebreaker is blah, blah, blah.
Oh, that's crazy.
So, Jeremy, I don't know if I've ever asked this question on this podcast before, but there were so many sit-outs in this challenge. It begs the question, have you ever sat out a challenge?
I'm not sitting out challenges, first of all. Like, the competitor in me, I want to play. I want to go and show my skills, and I want to win for my tribe. The game player in me is I want to experience all these Survivor challenges that we've seen all these years. And I want to play it and say, hey, I played in this one. I played in that one. And I want to tell my story to everybody later. With that being said, I did sit out a challenge before. You know, there was a time when I knew my tribe needed to lose. We needed to go to tribal council.
Wow.
But I'm not going to throw a challenge. So I made up a story that I wasn't feeling good. And I sat out a challenge. Strategically, I had to sit out. You know? And we lost. And we went to tribal and it worked. But even looking back, I look at the challenge and I say, I wish I played that challenge.
Who'd you vote out that episode?
That was Monica.
Okay.
Wow. Super crazy that you sat out to lose, you lost, you voted out the person you wanted to vote. And I would very, very, very much doubt that would ever work in the new era.
Oh, really?
Because the tribes are so small, there's nowhere to hide. You're going to lose a challenge on purpose. The shot in the dark, the dynamics are completely different.
I think I'm with you on that.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
All right, let's get to the next moment. The compassion stays at the start of this challenge. Jason is the puzzle slayer. Once again, Kele gets to the puzzle. They fall apart. I want to listen to what happens after.
Uli wins immunity. This challenge is over. Kele going to Tribal Council for the third straight time this season. The tribe of 3 will become a tribe of 2.
Brutal, man.
Very rare air in Survivor.
Brutal.
Wow. And that is the quietest I think I have ever heard a challenge seconds after it ends. Not a single word, not even celebration.
Yeah, that's cool, man. So emotional.
Yeah, well, I think the music is really nice here. I wanted to quickly point it out. I think it does an amazing job. And then the fact that it fades out just to hear you talk about the quiet, Jeff, I thought that was a really nice choice.
That Survivor post-production team, they got it going on.
Well, the other piece of this is, and maybe it's because I saw the next time on Survivor, it's already on my mind. But my question, Jeff, is we just talked about how you adapt the game when you have to.
Right.
So when do the words tribe swap bubble up in your mind? And is it right there in that moment?
I love that you brought this up because my answer relates back to what we talked about earlier in terms of storytelling and only revealing what you need to reveal in the moment. Because yes, you have seen the next time on, but you haven't seen the next episode yet. So we have a tease about a tribe switch. And now you're drawing all kinds of assumptions and conclusions. But what you will hear me explain in the next episode will answer your question about the tribe swap. And I'll leave it at that. And we can talk about it next week.
I love that.
Okay.
All right, let's take one more break. When we come back, the Kele 3 become 2. There literally is nowhere to hide. We'll talk to Jeremy about that. Be right back. Welcome back to On Fire. Okay, final moment of the episode.
All right, Jeremy, we come back to Kele Beach yet again. They have 3 players left. Sophie, Jeremiah, Alex. Alex has an idol, and therefore he holds all the cards. So what we're going to see are Sophie and Jeremiah pitching themselves. Please keep me. If you're Alex, how do you choose between these 2 tribe members?
First of all, it's a great spot for Alex to be in. He's in a position of power. But what I'm doing if I'm Alex is I'm going back to day 1, day 2, day 3, and I'm trying to figure out who has been truthful with me. Who can I trust more? Who can I rely on? So Survivor is a game of deception, lies, cheating, stealing, all that. It's wild. And if I can go back and remember all the dirt that other people have been doing, I want to keep the person that's closest to being clean.
Social politics.
Yeah, social politics is the key.
Wow.
Ultimately, that was Sophie's pitch. I think personally, it was probably the fact that she had the same nail technician since she was 15 years old that did it.
That's crazy.
And that wins over Alex. We say goodbye to Jeremiah. Jeff, your thoughts on Jeremiah?
Man, I love Jeremiah. And not just for his ridiculously infectious laugh, but he is so likable and so charming. When I looked at my notes, that's what I wrote. Love him, capital letters. He's super likable, really charming, so likable. I wrote again, I wish more humans were this joyful.
Wow.
When he gets rejected, he digs in. If you tell him no, he will find a way to get to a yes by proving it. And then in person, when we met, these are all capital letters. The biggest home run, absolutely fantastic, lovable, fun, funny, good storyteller, loves life, energetic. And here we are, a few episodes into this season, and Jeremiah's gone. That's the thing. That's why, I was thinking as Jeremy was talking earlier, every player we've had co-host this podcast has had one thing in common. They play big. They went for it. It worked out for all of them in some way or another. They got very, very deep or they won the game. But you all have that in common. Nobody is quiet. Nobody is pensive in the corner. You are full on playing the game. And that's what you have to do, knowing every week somebody gets voted out. That's the stakes of Survivor.
I feel like that's perfect, Jeff, because my second season, I just played free and I made the big moves and everything. And the other 2 seasons that I played, I really played a lot tighter. So you're right.
All right, let's get into some fan questions. As a reminder, if you have a question for us, you know where to find us. Survivor, shout out at cbs.com. I read the questions, I read yours here. The first one's from Jess.
I have a question. Wait, Jay, I have a question. This is a fan question from Jeremy Collins.
Okay,
first question comes from Jeremy
Collins.
Yes.
Let's hear it, man.
So, Jeff, this is for you. In your notes, you say, I love him, infectious, all these people that are getting voted out are all great people.
Right.
Is there anybody in casting that you see as this person is a jerk? This person is a villain.
Yeah, I know what you're getting at, because these days when you hear me talk about somebody that's been voted off, I'm usually using very complimentary terms. So let me just clarify this, Jay, because you and I talk about this a lot. When I say I like somebody for Survivor, it means that I like what they bring to the show, their essence, their unique qualities. Sometimes that's warmth and charm. Sometimes it's a sharp edge that might rub people the wrong way. Nicole, who was voted out first, was very charming and also very cutting because she's super smart. So had Nicole lasted longer, maybe part of that charm might have rubbed others the wrong way, and she's a villain in the eyes of some. Same with Rizzo. After the premiere, I got more texts about Rizzo than I've gotten after a first episode in a long time. What was interesting was some people said, oh my gosh, I love this kid. Others said, what a goofball, enough already. So he wanted to hug himself. He thought it was weird. How do you interpret that? That's what makes it fun. So I like both Rizzo and Nicole for different reasons. Jake, he did all his interviews with his shirt off. And it was somewhat polarizing, but in a really compelling way. So we want the full range of human behavior out there. You want humans with edges and flaws and warmth and big personalities. You want it all because that's what makes the game unpredictable and fun to watch. But I will say this. We are not going to put somebody on the show that we flat out don't like.
Right.
Just on any level. This is a multi-million-dollar, once-in-a-lifetime, life-changing, epic ride. So we are going to be a bit discerning in who we offer that to.
All right. The next question comes from Josh. They write, hey guys, I recently saw some photos of Jeremy at the Survivor Ultimate Fan Café. So I'm just curious, where did this idea come from and how is it?
Well, I'll take the first half. Where the idea came from is we're really making a concerted effort to have even more fan engagement throughout the year. Like we do these things called beach drops. And if you haven't heard of them or been to one, look it up. They are really fun. And we do them in different cities where we basically just create a Survivor experience where you can sort of immerse yourself in Survivor. The Survivor Ultimate Fan Café is more of a standing situation. It's going to be there for a minute. It's really fun. It's in Boston, and it is an interactive experience. You're going to go there. We have challenges from the show set up. You can compete in them. We have really cool photo opportunities, big backdrop of tribal council. You've got the stools to sit on and make it look like you're at tribal. There's usually a place where you can vote. So it's really fun because what we've learned is the textures of Survivor, the idea of actually being inside is much more than just listening to the music or seeing a photo. You want to be able to touch things and taste the food. And Jeremy was there as one of our great ambassadors who fans love to hang out with. So what was your experience like, Jeremy?
I thought it was so fun. To me, it was like winning a reward on Survivor. You go to this nice place. The atmosphere is beautiful. There's trees hanging down and the food is just overflowing and the drinks are just immaculate. You know what I mean? It was such a cool spot. You could vote people out. You could play challenges. You know what I mean? And
there's a big Hall of Fame wall with like all the pictures of all the great players there to take photos in front of. And then some of those players are there in person to hang out with. I'm really impressed with the team that puts this together because I'll admit we have a high standard on Survivor. We don't want anything out there. Going back to the book or the card game, we want it to be right. We want it to feel worth your investment. And I think people who get a chance to go to the Ultimate Fan Café in Boston or one of our beach drops, I've heard they feel good and the tickets sell out so fast.
And in fact, I may be there. You know what I mean? So come by,
All right. The last question comes from Nicholas. They write, pretty unlikely scenario, but sometimes players bury their idols in the dirt around camp.
Yep.
And if another player went idol hunting and happened to dig in the dirt and come across this idol that the player had buried, what happens?
It's a great question. It would be extremely rare, but what you're saying is Jeremy finds an idol and he doesn't want anybody to find it in his bag. So he finds a special spot in the jungle, he digs a hole and he buries it. And then Natalie comes along looking for an idol and digs it up and thinks she has found an idol. What would happen at that point is our producer would say, okay, here's the deal. That idol is not up for grabs. You cannot take that idol. And the player at that point would then start to read between the lines and say, okay, that means it probably is a real idol. It was probably found by another player. And at that point, maybe you go Tony Spy Shack and you start setting up traps to try to figure out who's going to come back to this spot. It would be really rare for that to happen, but that's what would happen because if Jeremy finds an idol, it's his idol. It can't be taken from him or stolen or anything like that. All right. Well, that's it for this week's episode of On Fire. If you enjoy the podcast, we'd love it if you'd take a moment and rate and review the show on Spotify or Apple Podcast, as it helps other fans find our show.
And if you really want to go for it, you can leave us a review like this one from Ozperson. Always enjoy this podcast, but whoever got Jeremy on board deserves a raise. He takes it to the next level. I like that, Ozperson. Keep that up.
All right, there's a brand new episode of Survivor every Wednesday at 8, 7 Central on CBS and Paramount Plus. And you know the drill. Immediately following that episode, there's a new episode of this podcast. It's called On Fire! See you then. Follow and listen to On Fire on the free Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts.